Welcome to my Stampin' Piece studio. I'm Mary Nabe, and looking forward to sharing with you my May One Sheet Wonder today. I am going to preface this demonstration by saying that I just received a weather alert about 30 minutes ago saying severe thunderstorms may be moving into our area and will be sticking around through this evening. So if for some reason I should lose power or internet, no worries. What I'll do is simply stop and not go back live, but I will make a video of the demonstration once I'm able to do so. But hopefully we'll get through the live demonstration and all will be fine. Thank you to all of you who have joined. I'm happy you're here. And I know so many of you look forward to the monthly One Sheet Wonder tutorials. So let's get started. First of all, I do want to share with you some of the products, or all of the products I'm using pretty much. The Right Words stamp set. This is brand new, and it will be available for you to purchase beginning May 6th, okay? May 6th. I absolutely love it. The Right Words. You know I'm a sucker for good sentiment sets, and this is a must-have. This is a must-have. And for today's purposes, I'm using Forever Loved, Forever Remembered, and then on the front of the cards. And then on some of the insides, I'm using Hope the Loss You Feel Right Now Will Be Eased by Wonderful Memories. And I chose that simply because I am in dire need of some sympathy cards. But the cards I'm going to make today, you can use any sentiment that you like. I'm also using the basic beige bordered ribbon on a couple of the cards. And I'm using the neutrals sequins as embellishments. And then the paper I've chosen is from the Woven Textures Designer Series paper. I do want to mention something that's a little bit unique for this paper pack. It is 12 by 12 sheets, and you do get 12 sheets in the package. But instead of 6 designs, 2 of each, you're getting 4 designs, 3 of each. So even better for making large quantities of cards. So these are the different textured papers. They're all wonderful. There's not one I don't like. And I've been using it a lot. For today's demonstration, I'm using this sheet in particular. Of course, you know that the most important part of any One Sheet Wonder is how we cut our 12 by 12 Designer Series paper. So that's what I'm starting with. And I will take you through the cutting of the DSP first, and then I'll make each of the 10 cards with you. I have 6 different card sketches I'm using, and 2 of those today are fun folds. So the first thing you're going to do is cut at 4 3/4 inches. And then you're going to cut at 1 1/4 inch. And then I've got a 6 by 12 piece left. So let's go back to that first strip, 4 3/4 by 12 inches. Turn it to the horizontal position and cut at 3 1/2 inches. Do that again and do it a third time. So these 4 3/4 by 3 1/2 inch pieces are what I'll be using for card A. For card B, I'll be using this piece, 4 3/4 by 1 1/2. And if you've been with me before, you know I like to lay my pieces out in the order that I cut them. Just makes it a little bit easier for me when I'm ready to put all of my cards together. Then I'm going to take the 1 1/4 inch by 4 inch, no, 1 1/4 inch by 12 inch piece, turn it to the horizontal position and cut it 4 inches. And I'll be using these 3 pieces for card C. And then I've got the 6 inch by 12 inch piece left. I'm going to turn it to the horizontal position and cut it in half at 6 inches. I'm going to take that first square and cut it in half at 3 inches. I'm going to stack the 6 inch by 3 inch pieces and cut it in half in the other direction, also at 3 1/2. I'll be using 2 of these for card sketch D and 2 for card sketch E. On this piece, I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half at 3 inches. Okay. Then on one end, I want to cut off 3/4 of an inch. Okay, 3/4 of an inch. If you have the Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer, you can very easily cut a stack of 2 and 3 pieces of standard designer series paper. If you have a cutter other than Stampin' Up!, I can't guarantee that you can get 2 and 3 at a time. So you may want to do them individually. Or if you just prefer to cut each piece individually, that's good too. So now this is what I've got from that last square. These are going to be used with card sketch E. And then these I'm going to stack. I'm going to keep them in vertical position and cut them in half at 1 1/2 inches. And all 4 of these 1 1/2 inch by 5 1/4 inch pieces will be used for the last card, okay, with sketch F. So let me bring back in these 3 pieces, 4 3/4 by 3 1/2, and I'm going to use each of those and make a total of 3 cards with them. So I'm using basic beige for my card base, 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 inches, scored at 4 1/4 inch in the center. To that, I'm adding Early Espresso cardstock, which measures 5 by 3 3/4 inches. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is add these strips, a strip of pecan pie to each of the card fronts. Whoops, that's not what I'm going to do next. I'm going to put the DSP on next. Okay, these are the pieces of DSP that I've cut from the One Sheet Wonder, and each one measures 4 3/4 by 3 1/2 inches again. Okay, now it's time to add my strips of pecan pie. These measure 4 1/2 by 3/4 inches, and I'm just going to lay it across the center of my card front. And I'm going to do the same thing with each of those. I love all the different textures in this paper. And I think any of them, all of them, would work very well in this one sheet wonder, or really any of my 12 by 12 one sheet wonders. Now, as usual, I've gone ahead and prepared my sentiments, okay? And I am using the same sentiments throughout the whole set of 10 cards, simply because that's not what you have to do. I'm simply doing it because as I've been adding cards to my stash, I realized that I am very, very, very low on sympathy cards. So that's why I decided to go this route. Of course, you choose the sentiments that you need or want to have to build up cards for your own stash. Or if you need a set of cards to give as a gift, perhaps you want to use different sentiments on each of them. The point is, you do you. And of course, we have so many wonderful sentiments in our product collection, so no lack of choice there. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put some sequins on these 3 cards right now. And on each one, I'm just using one large sequence on each side of the sentiment. I can already picture using this one sheet wonder and the card sketches with lots of other designer series papers. And that makes me eager to see how you use this one sheet wonder and the card sketches. Tanya, Facebook is no longer good about notifying people, and it's very frustrating, and I certainly understand that. But I typically go live at the same times each week, and you can always check here on Stampin' Peace with Mary Nabe. And it's actually, the times are actually listed in the header of this Facebook page. Okay, somebody asked about the punches. The early espresso oval in the back is from the modern oval punch. Okay, let me see if I can pull it real fast. The modern oval punch. Okay, and then the sentiment was punched with the labeled with love punch, and I'm using the same punches throughout the entire set. Okay, all right, so next up is a single card, and I'm using this 4 3/4 inch by 1.5 inch strip that was cut from my one sheet wonder. I've got a card base of early espresso, okay, and basic beige is on the inside. All right, basic beige on the inside. Yes, if you missed the first part, definitely go back and watch the replay, because the most important part of any one sheet wonder is how we cut the designer series paper. Okay, so I've got a piece of pecan pie on the front, and this measures 5 1/4 by 4 inches. I'm going to layer on top of that basic beige, which measures 5 inches by 3 3/4 inch. And then I have a strip of early espresso, which is 5 inches long and 1 3/4 inches wide. okay? 5 inches by 1 3/4. And this strip of DSP cut from my One Sheet Wonder, which is 5 inches by 1 1/2, 4 3/4 inch by 1 1/2, is going to be centered in that strip of early espresso. Okay. Again, I use the Modern Oval punch for the early espresso, and I've punched my sentiment, which is stamped in early espresso ink on basic beige cardstock, and punched with the Labeled with Love punch. And I'm going to add that right there near the top, but centering it left to right. And then I'll add a few of my neutral sequins, a large on the left and 2 small to the right of the sentiment. I think you'll find, especially if you are new to my One Sheet Wonders, I think you'll find that I make the One Sheet Wonders easy, okay? I don't want you to be overwhelmed with teeny tiny little pieces, and I don't want you to have leftover pieces. I use every bit of the 12 by 12 paper. And that being said, I want to use card sketches that are easy as well. Then, Len, thank you. When I'm doing these demonstrations, it is super important to be organized. So here, I'll show you guys how I do it. So I have this box, and what I do is whatever the cards are, I have all the pieces in here. They are, the card bases are ready. The stamp sentiments, if I use those, are in there. And I just go through until I've completed the whole bunch. So thank you for noticing that, because it does take a good bit of extra time to do that. So now for these 3 strips that are 1 1/4 inch by 4 inches, I'm actually kind of weaving them in place, just like that. Okay, so start by putting this one at the top left, and I'm positioning it so that I have approximately the same border of basic beige showing at the top and the left side. Then I'm going to take the next one, place it horizontally across the first one, about 1/2 inch or so from the bottom of the first strip. Again, it doesn't have to be exact. It's not rocket science, right? And then the last strip, I'm going to lay on top. Now here's a fun, well, I think they're all fun card sketches, but this one is fun. You could mix and match patterns here. You could do different colors of cardstock if you are using this card sketch outside of the One Sheet Wonder. So the possibilities are endless with this card sketch. And always keep in mind that just like you can use my One Sheet Wonders with any of your favorite designer series papers or pattern papers, you can also use the card sketches individually. You don't have to use the card sketches just when you're using a One Sheet Wonder. If you're only making 1 or 2 cards, and you need a little inspiration as far as card sketches or card layouts, that's when you can turn to the One Sheet Wonder card sketches. So you're getting a whole lot of value right there. Oh, we need some embellishments. And where did it? Here they are. Also, we have loads and loads and loads of, I'm looking to see, I did use the same color. Okay, I can switch up the colors here. On the first few, I used this. I was kind of making sure I had they were matching. Just like we have lots of different designer series papers and colors for you to use, we have lots of different embellishments as well. And many of those would work splendidly on these woven texture cards. Okay, so here's my next set. This will make 2, okay? So I'm going to, remember we had 4 3x3 squares from our One Sheet Wonder. I'm using 2 of them, 1 each for these cards. Again, I've got an Early Espresso card base with Basic Beige in the middle. Basic Beige is a great neutral. Often I'm using white as my neutral, so I have white on the inside of my cards, but Basic Beige works wonderfully in the card with the Early Espresso, this pecan pie, and also the Woven Textures Designer Series paper. So I'm adding pecan pie that measures 5 1/4 by 4 inches. 5 1/4 by 4 inches. Next, I have Basic Beige that measures, I want to double check, 4 1/2 by 2 inches. And I'm going to place this across the center of the card front. Okay, Basic Beige measures 4 1/2 by 2 inches. Okay, now I'm going to take my 3x3 squares and layer these onto Early Espresso cardstock that measures 3 1/4 inch by 3 1/4 inch. So 3x3 square on a 3 1/4 inch Early Espresso square. And these I'm going to pop up on dimensionals. How many of you have used, excuse my voice, still fighting whatever I had last week, but at least I've got, my voice isn't normal, but at least I've got a voice this week. How many of you have used any of my 12x12 One Sheet Wonders? You'll find that in my demonstration of the One Sheet Wonders, I do give all of the dimensions, not just for cutting the designer series paper, but for all of the cards and additional pieces of the cards. Does that look straight? Not quite to me. Whoops. Okay, let's just put a new dimensional on there. There we go. And that goes right in the center. But as I was saying, in the monthly One Sheet Wonder demonstrations, I give you all the dimensions and directions to cut your designer series paper. I give you all of the dimensions for all of the pieces for each of the cards in the demonstration. as well as the products I'm using. So there's no surprises, there's nothing missing. You have everything you need to recreate these on your own with just the video. If you're like me though, I like to have down PDFs. I like to be able to print things at times. So there are two ways that you can get the PDF version of this One Sheet Wonder, the templates, instructions for all the cards, etc. Okay. And that is when you place a $50 order with me in the month of, what month are we in? May. It's May 1st. Had a blank moment there. You will get this free. So place a $50 order with me, Mary Nabe, during the month of May 2025, and I will email you the complete PDF tutorial. That includes the supply list, color photos, the One Sheet Wonder template, templates of the card sketches, and all of the dimensions and instructions for each of the cards that I show. So a lot in there. And if you don't want to place an order with me, or perhaps you're a demonstrator and you buy the products yourselves, that's awesome. Then you have the option to purchase that PDF tutorial in my PDF store at stampinpiece.com for $18. Okay, so on to Card Sketch E. Now for this, I'm using the other two 3x3 squares, plus I'm using the 3-inch, 3-inch by 3/4 inch strips, okay? So this is a fun fold. So let me walk you through this, okay? The card base measures 8.5 by 4 1/4. 8.5 by 4 1/4. And let me show you this. So you can, it's a different size, but you can cut it this way, okay? If you want to do that. So 8.5 by 4 1/4. You're going to score at 5.5 and then fold it so the flap is on top. The inside of your card will be basic beige, 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And then I have a piece of pecan pie, and this measures 2 3/4 inches by 4 inches. And I'm going to adhere this to that front flap. So pecan pie measures 2 3/4 by 4 inches. Gwen Cooper, I'm so happy to hear that, and I know you're a demonstrator. Gwen, it was so nice. Gwen and I got to finally meet in person at On Stage in Raleigh, North Carolina in March. It was so wonderful. And as soon as she said her name, I said, I know who you are from watching. So I always get excited about that kind of thing. Okay, so now let's work with our DSP. I've got a piece of 4.5 by 3 1/4 inch, 4.5 by 3 1/4 inch early espresso. I'm going to put that 3/4 inch by 3 inch strip on the left side of that. And then I'm going to add the 3-inch square to the right side. And as I'm adding these to the early espresso, I have equal spacing on 3 of the sides of each piece, and then a larger space in the center, okay? And that's okay, because I'm going to be filling in that space. You wouldn't necessarily have to, because I think it looks kind of cool like that. Let me even show you. I could do something like that. And I think that looks nice on its own, but I'm going to step it up just a bit. Oops, by using some ribbon there. Okay, I've got my basic beige bordered ribbon, and I'm just wrapping it around. Oh, I hope I didn't cut this too short. I usually don't cut mine ahead of time for that reason, but let's see what I can do. Ooh, that's a little close. Obviously, I didn't measure well. Okay. Are they both the same size? Okay, I'm not even going to try it. Where is my ribbon? Let me start again. This is why I tell people, leave the ribbon on the bolt instead of cutting it too short, like I just did. So do as I say now. I got a little overzealous with prepping for this, so I went ahead and cut my ribbon ahead of time. And I came up short. But that's all right. I'll use those pieces for something else. Learn from my mistake, okay? It's much less waste when we use our ribbon right from the bolt because of mistakes like those, cutting it too short. So I just wrapped it around. And I'm tying that knot, and I'm just having that ribbon sit right into that open space between the two pieces of DSP. Okay, and I did this purposely because I want to show you two things. I might as well give you some tips when I'm doing these demonstrations. Whoops. There. Okay, so as you can see, this one's perfect, ready to go, right? This one is kind of loose and wobbly. Can you see it? It's kind of loose. I don't want it that loose. So the other thing is, this knot is probably a little bit lower than I wanted. So what I do when I want to move the knot or the bow is I just curl my cardstock like that. Just bend it. You don't want to fold it. Just bend it a little bit by squeezing it with your fingers. And then you can move that knot up or down. So I think that's in a better position of where I want it. Pull it just a little tighter, but it's still kind of loose. Okay. So here's what I do when it's loose. I just snip it in the back, and you can see if I pull the ends, they kind of overlap a little bit. That tells me it truly was loose. And then what you can do is just put some adhesive there and pull that into place and let those ends be. The other thing you can do is once you snip it, go over it with just regular Scotch tape, okay? All right, let's add these to our fun folds. Now, when I add these, I only want my adhesive on the left part of this, right? Here's a good way to guarantee I get my adhesive only where I want it, okay? I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to put adhesive on the left side of what I'm adhering. Then I'm going to put it on this right edge of the flap. Now making sure not to go too high or too low, okay? I'm going to center this on my card front and then press down in those two places. So think about it. I only put adhesive here and here. So now that ensures I have adhesive only where I need it and not where I don't want it. Okay, so I'll repeat that. Okay, the piece I'm adhering down, I'm putting adhesive on that left edge. The piece I'm adhering it to, I'm putting the adhesive along the right edge. Center that piece and then press it down. Woo! Some of you I know already know that trick, but I know there's always somebody new watching who would benefit by seeing it. So thank you for your patience. If you already know that trick and are using that trick. That was a game changer for me when I discovered that trick years ago. Okay. And then I have one more card to show you. And this one uses all 4 of the 1.5 by 5 1/4 inch pieces, okay? And it's a fun fold, right? This is what the fun fold looks like. And let me show you from beginning to end how to make this. So you're going to start with a piece of cardstock that measures 11 inches by 5 1/2 inches. Okay, 11 inches by 5 1/2 inches. Got to pull out my cheat sheet here. And then I'm going to do some scoring. Now, because this is a zigzag fold, when I score, I tend to flip my cardstock back and forth because I'm going to be folding pieces in different directions, okay? So, and I think it just makes it a little bit easier to fold. If it is too confusing for you, don't worry about it. Just do them all the same, okay? But I'll show you what I mean by that. So the first fold is, Claudia, it is the Right Words stamp set. And I will be coming back to that in just a bit. And we'll talk about it more. Okay, 1 3/4, flip it over. And I'm going to score at 3 1/2 inches. Then I'm going to flip it again and score at 5 1/4 inches. Then I'm going to open up my arm here and let me think a second. Yeah. And this one I don't have to flip again, but this one I'm scoring at, where's my 7? There it is, 7 inches, okay? So let me go over the score lines with you one more time. They are 1 3/4 inch, 3 1/2, 5 1/4, and 7 inches, all right? And this is where you need your bone folder. When you've got several folds like this, I just kind of fold them all at once, and then I go over the folds with the card closed. And if I need to do further burnishing, I do it like that. Okay. Fun fold cards can get a little bit bulky, but the the better that you burnish the score lines, the better creases you'll have, and the better, more compact your card will fold, okay? Kathy, hello to you in Florida. How nice. Okay, now, because of the way, well, I'm going to do that step last, actually. I'm going to go ahead and put my strips on these 4 sections of the part of the card that has the Z folds, or the accordion folds, as I like to call them. Of course, these cards could be used for anybody, male and female, but they do make wonderful masculine cards. Okay. And before we do the middle, I want to show you another part of the card. And for this, I've got a piece of pecan pie cardstock that measures 6 inches by 2 3/4 inch. 6 by 2 3/4. I've scored it in half at 3 inches, folded it in half, burnished that score line, okay? And now I want to attach this to the Z-fold part, okay? This is how I want it to go on, okay? But I am not sticking it to this back. I'm sticking it to 2 parts of the accordion fold, okay? That top one, that top section, and the bottom section. When I adhere it, I'm going to have it centered top to bottom, and I'm going to not have it quite all the way to the right side, but when I put in this piece, I want it to go to that edge, okay? So in other words, I've got this piece here. When this is folded, that fold goes to this edge, okay? Let's talk about the inside of this card for a moment. This piece measures 5 1/4 by, I want to make sure I tell it correctly, 3 3/4 inches. So it's a little bit, when the card is finished, closed, let me compare it for you. It's just a little bit more narrow, a 1/4 inch more narrow than the standard card, okay? Which means the inside piece is a 1/4 inch more narrow. So 5 1/4 by 3 3/4 there, okay? And you can see how that fits. Now, one thing I thought of when I made this card is I like to write messages. I like to write personal notes in my cards. But if I do that in here, part of my note is personal note that I write is going to be showing on the front. So there are 2 things you can do. You can add another piece of basic beige to the back side and write your personal message there, or you can do something like this. And I realized, let me just trim this a minute, because I realized I cut this to 4 inches instead of 3 3/4 inches wide. But I, you know, having that extra piece of basic beige on the back is a great solution. But I think I like this solution I came up with better. So, okay, it's correct width now. So, look what I've done. I've got a piece of basic beige now that measures 3 3/4 inches by 10 1/2 inches. I've scored it at 5 1/4 in the middle and folded it in half. So I'm going to add this now here. It's sort of like a double fun fold. Okay, do you see that? It's all coming together, right? This will be hidden by my pecan pie piece. But when the people open the card, they'll read the message inside. Then I can open this flap and write my personal message there. I was very excited when I came up with that solution. I know, when you're sick and trying to work and whatever, it's those little things that mean so much, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I put on the inside, on the edges only, outer edges only, I put some adhesive. Now I'm lining up my fold with my right edge of the basic beige. I'm going to hold this in place. I'm trying to center it top to bottom too. I'm going to hold that in place, and then I'm going to fold this over. If you want to close them and fold it, you can. Okay, so this is what I have now. So now I'm going to take that pecan pie piece. I've already got my adhesive on the other edge, and I'm simply going to fold it and press into place. And of course, I'm going to add a sentiment now. Now, one thing I didn't mention earlier with the layered sentiments, in other words, the ones I've punched with the labeled with love punch and then layered on early espresso that I've punched with the modern oval punch, I actually adhered these with dimensionals. So I've got some dimensions going on between. So when I've got dimensionals between the two punched pieces, I'm just adding them to my card so that the modern oval punch, the early espresso punch piece, is flat on my card. When I didn't layer them, then I added that sentiment with dimensionals. It's not a big thing. It really comes down to your preference, your choice. But I did want to point that out. Let's add some embellishments to this, and then I'll show you all the cards again. And again, as you can see, either one, actually the gold, I think would look great too. All of these three colors would look great with this designer series paper. I don't go for the gray, the silvery gray on this paper so much, but I'm sure it goes great with other papers. So I'm going to do one large and two small. And that card is complete. So let me bring all of these back in here now. Now that you've seen me cut the 12 by 12 sheet of designer series paper. And I'm going to kind of lay these out in the way I cut them. So here are 3 cards made with card sketch A. Okay. And then card sketch B. So all of these came from that first strip I cut from the One Sheet Wonder, 4 3/4 by 12 inches. So 4 3/4 by 3.5 for the top 3. And then this piece of DSP, 4 3/4 by 1.5. Then I had that strip that was 1 1/4 by 12 inches. And I cut that down into 4-inch pieces. And I just made a like woven pattern for card sketch C. Card sketch D, I used 2 of the 3 by 3 squares. Get some of this out of the way because it's distracting. It is to me. I don't know if it's distracting to you, but it is to me. And then I used the other 2 3-inch squares with the 3/4 inch by 3-inch strips to make 2 of these fun folds for card sketch E. And then card sketch F, I made 1 card that used all 4 of the 1.5 by 5.25 inch strips of DSP. And that makes a total of 10 cards. And I used 2 fun folds. So I've got 3 fun fold cards out of the 10. And I have to say, this is one of my very favorite sets. I've been doing these, let's see, monthly one-sheet wonders for, gosh, well over a year. I'll have to go back and check. I think maybe I started in March of 2024, although I had done some in the past, but doing them monthly. And I have to tell you, I so look forward to designing these one-sheet wonders and the sets of cards. And I was already thinking earlier today, ooh, what should I use for June's one-sheet wonder? So anyways, I'm glad you're here, and I hope you enjoy working with my monthly one-sheet wonders as much as I do. I'm going to go ahead and give away 2 of the cards. Excuse me. You know what? I'll give away 3 of the cards. I think I usually give 3 cards away. If you would like to have your name put into the drawing, please type in the comments now. Ooh, I've got stuff going everywhere. The right words. The right words. That is the name of the stamp set I used. I do want to point out that I used this one, Forever Loved, Forever Remembered, on all of the 10 cards, on the outside of all of the 10 cards. On some of the cards on the inside, I did this for my sample. I didn't take the time to do it with you here necessarily. But on the inside, I used this coordinating sentiment. Hope the loss you feel right now will be eased by wonderful memories. I think these are both beautiful sayings for sympathy cards. So that's what I've chosen to make. There are several others in here where you get 2 coordinating sentiments, thinking of you a lot. I wish I had the right words for a time like this, but just know how much I care. Excuse me, but just know how much I love and care about you. I stamp on the inside. So the right words. This is a brand new stamp set, okay? You cannot order it yet. May 6th is your first date as a customer that you can order, okay? The right words, all right? So if you're looking for it before May 6th, you are not going to find it online, all right? So just let me make that very clear. This stamp set launches on Wednesday, May 6th, okay? All of the other products I used in this set of 10 cards is available for purchase right now. Some of you probably already have some of these or all of these colors of cardstocks. You might have the 2 punches, you might have the embellishments, you may have the woven textures paper. But remember, you can use my one-sheet wonder templates and card sketches, card designs, with any of your favorite papers and stamp sets, okay? Also keep in mind, if you get the PDF free with your $50 order this month, okay? Or if you purchase the PDF tutorial, please note the card sketches do not include where to place the sentiments. Yes, the instructions for the cards do, but not the templates. The reason being, not everybody uses the same sentiments that I might be using today, okay? We don't want to limit ourselves. So that's the reason you don't see sentiments marked on the actual card sketches, but they are in the color photos and in the instructions. So Tanya's asking the order number for the stamp set. It will be, again, this is beginning May 6th, okay? 165316, and it's called The Right Words. Item number 165316. And I really don't remember the cost, probably between, I don't know, $20, $25. Off the top of my head, I don't remember the cost, but reasonable, especially because it's a very versatile set and one that I think you will use often for making cards of encouragement, sympathy, thinking of you, get wells, birthdays, that sort of thing. It's a really nice set to have. All right, everyone, I will be posting this video to my YouTube channel, Stampin' Peace with Mary Nabe, as well as my blog, stampinpeace.com, very shortly, probably in the next hour. And then also you can, thank you, Len and Gwen, $26. Thank you, my demonstrator friends. Love you. Also, again, the PDF tutorial with the One Sheet Wonder template, card sketches, color photo supply list, and card instructions, you get free with a $50 order from me during the month of May 2025, or you can purchase it right now in my PDF store, stampinpeace.com, for $18. And that's it. And my voice is just about gone. So we made it through. Thank you so much. Enjoy, have fun. I can't wait to see what you create with my May One Sheet Wonder. Bye-bye.